this video, we're going to talk about reports and really their predecessors, which are templates. So we see those for IT Analytics Foundation. If we click on the Reports tab, then I open up an area that out of the box will look where any white folder in the left-hand pane here represents out of the box templates that are available to us. So for purposes of conversation, if we look at management reports, we can see then in the major pane, we can see a variety of different reports that are available to us. And let's go ahead and choose one called Job Status Summary. And if I highlight that opportunity, it immediately will open up the equivalent of a run. And so, like most backup reports, we start with a template, and then the template has scoping parameters. So in this case, for a job summary, a job status summary, we get to choose the window of time that we want to report upon, and then we also can choose a report scope. And you'll see in many cases additional options, for example, to group by, in this case, days, whether we want parent, child, or both kinds of jobs, whether or not we want all backup and restore events, etc., etc. You can see the pick list, and whether we want successful, warning, failed, or I'll just leave everything at all events. And you'll note as well that in the date range opportunities, there's a rich range of preset values. So if I can choose, as we can see from the list, last 7, 10, 14, 21 days, all the way up to last year, or 3, 5, 7, or 10 years. And those are all great. If there were a need to go back and look at a specific time frame, we can certainly do that. So if I didn't find the time frame of interest here, I can certainly go in and be very explicit, click on a calendar, for example, and say I want to specifically go from the 1st to, let's say, today. In any case, once I've set my scoping parameters up, I can generate. So what we are now seeing at this juncture is a report. We've started with a template, we've scoped it, and we've now created an output. This will look very familiar to what we saw in inventory. It's actually the equivalent of one of the portlets within an inventory overview. So much as we saw previously, if we want to change our information that's exposed and not exposed within these, I can do that on demand. And if I found after rendering from the report scope that I wanted to change that, I could do that here. I could simply click on Edit Scope, which is also available in this upper corner. And if I wanted to say, well, I want to go back 14 days, or let's say 10 days, and regenerate, I have changed my scope that quickly and easily. Now, one of the differences between a template and a report is at the point that I have started with a template and I've scoped it, I now have the opportunity to save that as what will be called a report. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to give this a report name of a job status summary report. And unlike white folders, out of the box representations are I can't store content in there. That's controlled with the software releases, but I can store all sorts of other content in my own directory structure, so a folder structure. So I'll just call this a folder name. I'm going to create a folder called demo, and I'm going to persist or save this report into that folder. So now if I go into demo, I actually will see there's our job status summary report, and I can see that it is a type called report, and it's based on a template called job status summary. Now for out-of-the-box reports, I will also be able to go in and see that there is a saved instance using that template. So I saved that report, and if I go here, you can see there's at the moment one report. Now if I hit the pull down, it's going to reference me to that job status summary report that we just saved. Now to bring home the fact that that job status summary is in fact a freestanding entity at this point, what I've done is I've closed it out, and I'm going to go into my structure here And notice when I click on it, it runs and there's no scoping being asked for. Now I can edit it after the fact, but I did not need to provide scoping in order to get a report to run. So the fact that I have that ability to save all of that content is very, very powerful. Now we're going to go ahead and do that same operation of taking a template and saving a report. And in this case, what we're going to go for is we're going to go after the job summary. And I'm going to, once again, start, and I'll scope the job summary for the same period of time. The last 10 days. I'm going to leave the host group at the top level that we specified. In other words, everything will be the same, and what we're going to be doing is seeing an example of the same scope producing a very, very different output. So in the case of the same time frame, instead of seeing those in an aggregated stacked bar, I'm now seeing those jobs line by line. Now once again, we'll go ahead and save this as a report, and I'm going to go ahead and call this with the name report on it, and I'll say last 10 days. If I spell that well, and I'll put that same report in my working folder called demo. So again, now we see two reports, also based on different templates, and as we'd expect, since this was also based on an out-of-the-box template, we can see that there's a saved report instance based on these two templates. And just as we did previously, if I go and I close that job summary that we just rendered, if I go into demo and simply run it, we will now see that same information. So I now, at this point, as a recap, we've created a couple of reports, a job status summary and a job summary, and now we might as well just show the ease of generating your own dashboard. So let's assume, for simplicity's sake, that I would like to organize these two reports into a dashboard in order to have easy access to this in the future. To create a dashboard in NetBackup IT Analytics, we simply click on the plus sign, and we're going to create a dashboard. We get a title of new dashboard, and then the first operation is simple. You just drag and drop an existing report into the landing page, and there it is. Now let's assume that we want to bring in the job summary report under that. And as I bring this same thing, I'm left clicking to drag and drop. You'll notice these areas that are highlighting as I hover over them around the boundaries of the first report that we dropped in. That's indicating where this next report will go. So if I make sure to highlight, to drag it to the point where the cursor is, got that bottom landing zone changed color, if I lift my mouse, then we've reorganized to that point. Now, the same thing, if I had, this is not going to be very exciting, but if I wanted the same job status report to appear next to itself, I could just positionally place it next side by side, and what you can see is that the dashboard will auto-organize itself to take advantage of the rows and spacing. The last thing that we'd want to do, assuming that we like this, and if I didn't want this, I could actually delete this second drop, and now let's go ahead and save this as a dashboard. I can go to my actions here in the upper right, and I can save this. And we're going to save this, we're going to call this dashboard as a demo dashboard. You could put short and long descriptions in there. We're going to put it in our demo folder, and I'm going to associate this in the inventory with objects of the type backup server, and these reports are applicable to any of the backup products, so I can just leave those as they are, and we'll give it a category of report category of backup, and click OK. So now we see that dashboard has been created for us. I always like to bring home the fact that these objects, once they're created, are renderable rapidly. we've saved this dashboard. I can close it. I can close the reports included with it. And if I simply go to that dashboard, not only can I tell it's a dashboard by title and icon, but it also tells me in the source location it is a dashboard. If I go to that dashboard, click on it, it renders, and lo and behold, there's the work that we saved. I talked in a previous video about the fact that some reports can generate latency based on when they were created or saved. And in this case, we're seeing an icon that tells us at the data that rendered this report is a whole 34 seconds old. If I wanted to ask for an on-demand refresh from the database, I could do it just that easily. I certainly wanted you to understand those icons.